What made you switch from Trump to Nikki Haley?
The man is a lunatic.
The stronger voice, which might be a little quieter, is Nikki Haley. It's the voice of reason, not the voice of treason.
Would you vote for Donald Trump in November?
I'm not sure. I don't know what to do. I'm hoping that somehow it works out that Nikki gets a nomination.
Because I think she's the best chance we have right now, and I wanted to make sure that I will put out a vote against Donald Trump.
In a cycle so far lacking some suspense, they make up one of the great mysteries of the election cycle. When all is said and done, do the people who think Trump is a lunatic who committed treason, what do they end up doing? Will we look back at them and the things they said and call them swing voters this cycle? Few of the Nikki Haley supporters who've been interviewed by NBC News today across the country suggested that she was anything more than a long shot to win the Republican nomination. So the real question becomes, what do they do? Where do they end up if and when she leaves the race? Joining our coverage, NBC News correspondent Shaq Brewster in Greensboro, North Carolina. Claire and David are still with us. Shaq, tell us what you're hearing.
Well, Nicole, you know, one interesting thing to help answer that question, and one interesting factor, I should say, is that the people building Nikki Haley's support, it's a range of people. It's a coalition of voters. Some of them are people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, who either were turned off by Donald Trump, but consider themselves Republicans and see Nikki Haley as a conduit for that energy. Others are traditional Republicans who just like Nikki Haley and will go back to Donald Trump if they need to in the general election. So when you ask the question of what happens to them after, it really depends on how they're entering that base of support for Nikki Haley. And I want you to listen to a couple of conversations I've been having with voters when I ask them that very point, not just who you're supporting and why, but what happens if you get that likely general election matchup. Why Nikki Haley?
Two reasons. One, I think she would do a very good job. And two, I think Donald Trump is a threat to the well-being of our country.
But if it's a Donald Trump, Joe Biden rematch, what do you do in that case?
Donald Trump.
What made you switch from Trump to Nikki Haley?
The man is a lunatic, and I think he's terrible for the country.
What are you thinking about when you say that?
Just that he lies, he cheats, he's bankrupted millions of businesses and people, and I don't see anything good about him.
Let me ask, if Donald Trump is the nominee in November, do you support Joe Biden over Donald Trump?
No.
What do you do?
I don't know. It will be a hard decision.
In that last conversation, her name was Monica, we went on a little bit longer, and I asked her, well, you know, what do you do? How do you ultimately make a decision? And she said she doesn't know. She'll wait it out. But then she did say that if Donald Trump chooses a vice presidential candidate that she likes, then that could swing her over and have her be a vote for Donald Trump, despite her thinking that Donald Trump is a lunatic in her words. So that just gives you a sense of how it's a difficult decision. Some of these voters don't genuinely say they don't know what they'll do if it gets to November and it's that Donald Trump-Joe Biden rematch. But you can bet, based on the conversations that I've been having at least, a lot of them will likely go back into the fold, will most likely go back to the Republican candidate and vote for Donald Trump, Nicole.
So interesting. And I would say, having worked on a lot of campaigns, if Trump's VP pick is decisive, it would be the first time in American political history that that's the case. I mean, and again, Shaq's a tremendous journalist. I'm sure that is what people are saying. But there's never been an instance where that's been, I mean, even all the lore around Palin, like, that's not where he lost. I mean, you know, I mean, there's... I feel like we're still talking about such small numbers and anecdotal pieces. The fundamental thing is that I think is so vital is that Trump's own voters know that he's a threat to the well-being of the country, that he's a terrible person, that he bankrupted, these are their quotes, that he's a lunatic, and that he committed, in their words, treason. That has seeped into a part of the sort of political spectrum that it was an open question for me.
That's right. And I think it's an important context to baseline this focus on the Haley Biden voter is not the end-all, be-all. I mean, Joe Biden's a Democrat who has to marshal together a coalition largely of Democrats and Democratic-performing voters from the left to the right to the middle, the mainline Democrats, the progressives, the moderates, and so forth. However, this is not a mandate election we're going to in November. This will be a coalition election, and that's where the Haley-Biden voter really does matter. And so if you're Nikki Haley, and more importantly, you're a Haley voter, you have built your campaign around questioning Donald Trump's fitness for office, around his competency, around his patriotism, his loyalty to the country. You've called him unhinged, unstable. You have said his election conspiracy theories are those of a loser. You have said that he sided with Putin. You have said he's not competent or young enough to be president. Donald Trump beating Nikki Haley tonight on Super Tuesday does not make Donald Trump more fit for office. And the question earlier about, so what changes the dynamic? It actually relies on leadership voices like Nikki Haley's and like Chris Christie's and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger to say, we are voting for Joe Biden in November. Right. And if they fail to do that, they failed the greatest test they've ever faced, probably. The voters, many of the voters are already ready to answer that question, that they'll vote for Joe Biden.
Well, and voters have to answer that question. They're going to go in a booth and there are going to be two things on the menu. And Liz Cheney has said on this program she won't vote for Donald Trump. Sue Gordon, former deputy DNI, said she wouldn't vote for anyone who adheres to Donald Trump's philosophy, which is essentially saying she wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. I mean, the not voting for Donald Trump has to become a clarion call about the fitness question.
About voting for Joe Biden, though, because very gratuitously, really gratuitously, kind of disgustingly, Nikki Haley has called Joe Biden more dangerous than Donald Trump. And when she was pressed on it,
we know she doesn't believe.
She brought up issues of corporate taxes and border policy, not threats to democracy, not existential threats to our individual rights and to the future of the country. And so do we see people who play in the space of, oh, I'll never vote for Donald Trump? Are they willing to say, it's a binary race and I'm going to vote for Joe Biden to protect the future of the country? Because thus far, that's where a lot of Republicans with conviction continue to stumble. And
we're talking about Republicans at our own peril, because the other piece of that and the other piece of winning is that it shouldn't be hard to vote for Joe Biden. It should be the easiest vote every Democrat has ever made. Because whatever you are chafing at the White House against, Donald Trump is in another universe of scary and bad.
Another universe. And the woman who told Shaq that she might vote for Trump if he picked the right vice president, I'll put money that he won't.
But even if he does, it's like, what's he going to do? Call him the P word again? I mean, like, how did it go for the last guy?
What she's looking for is for him to pick someone that would embody seriousness and normalcy, and he's going to pick a sycophant. He's going to pick somebody who's, oh, Donald Trump, you're the best, and you're so smart, and I don't notice that your face is orange, and your hair is too orange, and I don't notice the fact that you lie every day. That's who he's going to pick. Right. He's not going to pick somebody to bring people in. He's never been about building out. He's always been about bringing out the folks that are for him. So I do think that if Biden can, and here's the other thing to remember, and I kind of harping on this, but right now, the party identification is the lowest it's ever been in terms of Democrat and Republican. It is now just as many people identify as independents as the two parties. So we probably need to take a stroll down the road of, do any of these people end up with any of these third-party candidates?
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Willie.
Sir, come on, what is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn weird, good on me, let us know.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the All-Star character. General! Immediately hold on. National security advisor. Stay down. Check it out. There is a celebration. The amateurs are suicide mission.